Hello, my friends, and welcome to another speed build. I'm Mia, and today we're going to be building a lot with 2 commercial spaces with 3 apartments above. So it's basically 2 different buildings. One of them, the one on the left here, sorry, that's my cat, has one large apartment, and the space on the right has 2 smaller apartments, one studio and one technically 2 bedroom. So I was inspired to make this because of the new pack that's coming out. You're able to make a residential area above a commercial space, which I think is really cool, although obviously it's not out yet for a couple of weeks, so you won't be able to use this immediately if you download it right now, but you will in just a few weeks. And you can download this right now, but obviously you won't have all the same functions, so it'll just act as a regular community lot. You can change it. I think I have it set up as a cafe because I wanted to have a bakery in that left building, which is my plan when the new pack comes out, to use that as like a cake bakery, like a wedding cake bakery, which I think is pretty cool. So it'll work like with wedding stories, and you can put all your beautiful cakes in there, and I've got a nice window display for you. One thing when I was playtesting this, the cake display in the window, you'll probably want to partition off because the Sims kept coming in and just taking the cake off of those displays right out of the window, and it's like, I don't think that's the vibes. And my original idea was to put those like new partitions that we're gonna get behind the cake display area, so it'll keep your Sims from doing that, but obviously we don't have those yet. So I just moved from working on the commercial kitchen to kind of place holding some things in the front for that bakery, customer area, which when the new pack comes out, I'm probably going to switch out a lot of that stuff for the newer stuff, but we'll see how it goes. Because I kind of like the interior of this. I mean, I changed up some of it how it looks right now. I use a different counter, different swatch. You'll see later on, this build takes me like many hours. A lot of footage here compressed down into like 30 minutes. So I changed my mind on a lot of things, but we finally get it together, and I think it looks pretty good at the end. So a fun fact, this space on the left is inspired by my first apartment. I'm sorry about my cat, Turtle. She's like, she really wants to be an internet star in any way she can. So anyway, this apartment is based on my first apartment that I shared with my sister, and I really loved this apartment, and it was above this kind of like fancy restaurant that always smelled so good, but the food was so expensive that we could never go there. So it was really horrible because like every day, around dinner time, you're like smelling this like garlic and like pasta and just such really good smelling food, and we couldn't have any, and it was very sad. But it was a great apartment, and so this is modeled after that a little bit, and it was very cold because it was in New York, so it was very cold. In the winter, we had little radiators. You'll see I put those in here for a nice touch. But it was very cold until you turn on the radiator, and then it was like so hot you had to like open the windows. So there was really no middle ground. And I jump around a little bit in the furnishing of this place, and I apologize for that. It's just because it took me so long. It was like a multiple day thing, and I couldn't really remember where I had left off the last time when I came back in to keep furnishing. So it jumps around a little bit, and I apologize if that bothers you. Um, Here's another thing here that, like, cracked TV from the basement clutter kit. I used that because it's like exactly the same TV that we had in that apartment, because it was so heavy that nobody could lift it. Like, it was there when we came in. It was the only thing that was in the apartment because nobody could lift it to take it out. So it was still there. So, we got a TV while we were there. And we left it for the next person because it was freaking heavy. Something else you might notice is that there are no doors. Like, the main doors here off the living room and the bedroom don't have any actual doors, they're just archways. And that was a conscious choice because that is also what was in my apartment in real life. For some reason, there was not a bedroom door, it was just an archway, which was really weird, but put up a nice curtain, which I did here, and it works. I think it gives kind of a cool touch. Some things are just kind of weird, old apartments, like sort of like that. And I furnished this bedroom in sort of like a blue and white kind of moon, stars, celestial kind of vibe. So I think it came out pretty cool. I used first of all, I apologize. I used like a lot of packs in this, so it might be a little difficult to download if you don't have basically all the packs, but I think it looks pretty cool, and sometimes it's like really fun to just build with like everything. I also never use those neon starlights. I just never think about it. So I thought it was pretty cool to use those in here, especially when we have that kind of celestial theme going on. They kind of worked a little pretty nicely over the bed. I didn't realize somehow that you can actually put things inside that cabinet, which is like super cool. But anyway, we're moving on to a different day here, so we start working on some other stuff, and I'm not actually quite finished with that apartment yet. Like, the living room isn't even close to done yet, the kitchen still needs a lot of work. So, but I come back to that later. So right now I'm working on the fire escapes on both buildings. I didn't go with the debug one because I wanted them to be actually functional. So I put the high school years window so you can climb out. That's a functional window that you can climb out onto the fire escape. So here I start working a little bit on the right side apartment and stores. Still working on those fire escapes a little bit, and then I moved to the roof, and this building has roof access. Both apartments have roof access. The left side apartment does not. So this one, I put some chickens up there, some chicken coop. You can have your own chickens if you want. You can have a little garden. There's a yoga mat, a woohoo blanket, because that's always fun. So you'll see me add a couple of water heaters and fuse boxes. Those are the non-functional ones that come with for rent. I find that the functional ones are a little bit annoying actually during gameplay, having to do all those loading screens between lots. But if you wanted to use the functional ones, you could do that and just change your lot type. If you have for rent, you could change this to a residential rental, and you could have 3 apartments. Now moving on to the right side studio apartment in the front of the building. This is my favorite of all the spaces, I think, because it's so much fun to create a tiny little living space. I imagine that like a young artist lives here, and maybe she has her painting set up in the corner over by the bed, And like I said before, this build took me multiple days. So here we're even moving on to a different day where I stop working on that studio apartment and I'm working on the downstairs storefront portion. I envisioned this place to be more like a generic commercial space. So I put some displays, I put a retail counter, cash register, and then just like a bunch of empty displays so you could sell whatever you wanted in here. This space has a bathroom in the back, which you could either make, employees only, or you could have that open to the public. And then across from that is a little bit of a little office. And in the front there, I'm making some custom window displays. I don't know about you guys, but I am so excited for this feature where like you can make things employee only and you can just have that window display only be accessible to your employees, to the business owner. I think that's a really great feature. Now you'll see I kind of had a hard time figuring out what kind of color palette I wanted to go with here. I managed to figure out I wanted it to be like light blue. Use some of that Cozy Bistro kit wallpaper, which I think looks pretty cool. And then moving upstairs again, this is very disjointed, but now we're working on that studio apartment and just furnishing it, getting all the little details in there. This is my favorite part. I loved this apartment. It is so cool. It is my favorite. It's a little studio apartment that I imagine a young artist lives here, and she's just decorated it with like yellow, green, pink, and she's got that blue kitchen, which I imagine is like kind of newly renovated. And she's just got all of her like funky paintings and that canvas stand, with the painted canvases inside of it. That's going to be stacked up in her little studio area. And I imagine that she's gone a little rogue with the landlord and she has painted some murals on a couple of these walls. So, like that Love Struck wall in her studio, and then in the entryway, there's like the pastel pop kit wallpaper. And I imagine that, like, using my imagination for this, but that she has actually painted like a mural on the wall. And I go through and I add a whole bunch of like cool wall decorations and decals, which I hardly ever use, and a whole bunch of like neon lights because I also never use them, and they're really cool. Like I feel like I've found something new when I use these because I just hardly ever put them in a build. And now because the kitchen is so small, I only, put a couple different clutter items that are like wall hanging. So you can still use the counter to cook on and it does function properly. But it's a really tiny space. So there's not a lot we can do with it. And then moving on to the bathroom, the fuse box in there is non-functional. It's just the decorative one. Because I find that the functional ones are like kind of annoying in gameplay. You have to keep like moving back and forth between the apartments, and I just don't really want to deal with being a landlord that often. And now watching this back, I remember that I had actually changed the kitchen to be yellow. So that was cool. I didn't remember doing that. I think I just didn't think that the blue was working, so I changed it to yellow. And because we did have those yellow accents, so now it's green, yellow, and pink. So it works out. But moving on to this back apartment, the one behind the studio, I made this one kind of grungy and gross. And um, I envision it sort of like this has been rented out for like a long time by somebody who like has no money, and so they can't really leave to find a new apartment. So the landlord hasn't been able to come in here and do any of the renovations that have been like done to the other ones. So it's got some holes in the walls. It's got some stains. It's just kind of disgusting. And the furniture is like old and kind of crusty and gross. And the appliances aren't very good. And there's like everything's kind of broken. And um, there's like in the second bedroom there's just sort of like some crap stuck in there. It's like an old mattress and boxes. Like maybe this person's trying to move out, or they just don't like care at all. And so it's just kind of gross. But I think it's fun because I never ever use those things. Like I always build nice things, nice builds, and this one's kind of run down and kind of crappy, kind of seedy. So I thought it was fun to work with that. They've got some cobwebs. They're not very good at cleaning. They've got old posters that are kind of ripping off the wall, and they have a mouse as well. So, and they have some cracks in the like the foundation and stuff. So the landlord needs to come in here and fix some stuff. But, it is what it is. This person doesn't seem to like really have a problem with that. They're used to their conditions. They like it. And so we're going to be moving on out here to the next day of filming. So this is a different day, and I come in and I am doing more of like the little details on the kitchen, in the bakery, and all sorts of kind of more detail items. And I work on that office that's in there and start putting in some little clutter items, making it seem a little bit more lived in. I also forgot to put the trash cans in the kitchen, which you'll definitely need, so I put a few of those around, and some mats, the rubber mats that come from Get to Work, I think. So here we're working on the office, and I put a little shelf in front of the window to act as sort of like a windowsill, which I think is cool. And I've just put some plants on there, make it seem a little homey. They've got cupcake artwork, so it's fitting for bakery. Some files and some filing cabinets, sticky notes, your average kind of office things that you would find. Put the telephone from the reward events in because that's cool. And working on the bathroom now, I spent a lot of time filling one of these little shelves with toilet paper. I think it's pretty cool. It's kind of like, if you work at like a restaurant or something, you've got the shelf of extra toilet paper and stuff in the back. So I was just working on stacking a bunch of rolls of toilet paper on there. And I think it came out pretty cool, kind of realistic. And then jumping back out into the front, I could not make up my mind on a lot of the stuff that we have out here. And obviously I'm going to change quite a bit of it once the new pack comes out because I'll want to use the new stuff. But I work on getting some furnishings in here and working a little bit on getting some more tables. I couldn't really decide what kind of outside table I wanted. Went through back and forth quite a bit, and then finally decided on the white tables. And then do a little bit of landscaping out front, add a tree, a couple trees, uh, some string lights, and make it look a little bit more homey. I go back and forth a little bit on what kind of paving I want to have out front, and then I finally settle on the brick because it matches the left building the best, and it just kind of gives it like a kind of a classic flair. And then I go in and I add in a bunch of greenery. I add kind of a little like walkway down the side of the building, and then fence it off kind of with those shrubs, the hedgerows. And so I think that looks kind of cool. You can walk around the side. And then I leave the alleyway between the two buildings as that concrete, so it meets up with the sidewalk almost as if it's a real city street. And I do a lot less landscaping over on the front of the right hand side building just because I kind of want to leave that open um, to maybe change whatever comes out with the new pack, add some new stuff to it, or I don't really know what kind of store is going to go in there yet, so just kind of leave it up for interpretation a little bit. And then I go through and I add some signs and some columns to the corners of the buildings just because it makes it look a little bit more finished. And then I go through in the alleyway and I add a whole bunch of graffiti and like old advertisement signs and stuff because that makes it look a little bit more like realistic, a little bit like lived in. I go through and I add like stains and cracks and pools of gross substances in the alleyway and under the dumpster and make it look really lifelike. Maybe like somebody's dropped something and it cracked the concrete there, and there's just like stains everywhere and scuff marks. And there's stains under the windows where maybe like the rainwater has collected and ran down the building. And there's a couple more like faded ads on the side of the buildings. And under the fire escapes there's some like crud. I wanted to see what this place looked like at night, so I turned off the lights. I made it nighttime, and I added some twinkle lights and some little candles around the place, especially on that left side building, the little bakery. So maybe you could come here at night with your Sims. I went back and forth between a couple different string light options. Finally, I just settled on like a plain string light and those little candles and the lanterns on the ground. And I think it looks pretty good overall. So moving inside once again, I wanted to fill this place up with some cakes. So I found from the gallery, if you search by room, you can find things that people upload to gallery, like a room full of cakes, for example, which comes in really handy if you want to stock a bakery, but you don't want to have a sim there to do all the baking because they have to have a really high bakery or cooking skill to do that, and it would take you forever. So you can just download them from the gallery, place your cakes in, and voila, you have pre-made cakes in a beautiful bakery in the store window. And just trying to figure out a little bit more about the layout here, I changed the counter to be lengthwise instead of, right in the back of the store. So it gives you a little bit more space for tables to walk around. I wind up adding a little couch, a little seating area, and I placed in this like cake refrigerator there, which I plan on changing out for the new one that comes in it's like the early purchase content, I think. but it looks pretty cool, so I'm going to use that. And like I said earlier, the cake display in the window, your Sims, you're going to want to block that off somehow, because the Sims who walk in are just going to like grab a slice right out of the display window, and that is not what you want. Switching gears yet again, this is a different day, and I come back to the build and I realize that I didn't actually finish furnishing the apartment over the bakery. So here we are coming back to this. I had furnished the bedroom, but I kind of put some placeholder furniture down for the rest of it, and I didn't actually finish doing what I was supposed to be doing. So here we are. I'm just adding some more colors, some more wallpaper, some paneling, basically just making this place pretty nice, adding some curtains, and I love that rug. I think it's from high school years. I don't want to say that though and have it be wrong, but it's one of my favorite rugs. And I wound up adding a whole wall of bookcases from the Book Nook kit, which are some of my favorite things ever in this whole game. I love those. I think they look so cool. And then I just had like a whole bunch of Book Nook stuff in here. And the bookcases were not original to what my apartment actually looked like. I just thought they were cool. I would have loved that, but unfortunately, I was not quite so lucky as that. But then I go on and I move into the kitchen area, the kitchen dining room / office, and I just kind of make it look really funky. We got blue and yellow and green situation going on. I think it came out alright. A lot of like kind of matching wood tones and like funky curtains. I think they look alright in here. I use the egg rug, which is super cool. It's one of my favorite items. And we're just adding some finishing touches and finishing up the bathroom a little bit. And that's pretty much the whole build. And it only took me like 15 hours or something ridiculous. So, I'm so excited for the new pack to come out. I hope you guys are excited, and we'll definitely be doing some building with that in the near future. And, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, weekend, month, year. If you want to download this, my name is Mia Veggie Burger on the gallery. And don't forget to eat your veggies. Alright, see you next time. Bye-bye.